gotten a job and finished that up, but no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I'm a college dropout. The reason I'm proud to say that, not proud, sorry, that's not the word I'm looking for. The reason I'm not ashamed to say it is because I'm self-educated. I educate myself. I read 5, 6, 7 hours a day. That's my primary job. I read everything, especially history, especially military technology. I've always been interested in that. The reason I bring it up is very simple. I was actually very, very fortunate in terms of my education early rather than late, because my father was a hotel manager and I went to private schools in Bermuda, which meant that I went to British schools as I was poor. British schools are very different than American public schools, and they were much, much better, much better. I'll give you a couple of examples. In the British schools I went to between ages probably 4 and 12, by the time I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was in a school that didn't have a daily schedule. It had a weekly schedule. So every day would be different. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then back to day 1. But on day 1, I might get there and get 2 hours of geography, a morning break, Spanish, English, a lunch break, physical education, metal shop, and history. And then on day 2, I'd have a double science period. But when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was taking physics, chemistry, biology, history, geography, English, Spanish, wood shop, metal shop, reading, and maybe 1 or 2 physical education. I don't know if I got that in. But it gave me an incredible opportunity. And because they wore uniforms in those schools, it wasn't a question of, oh, look, it's the poor kid. Everybody wore the same clothes. Nobody was better than anybody else. And we were also segregated. So we were segregated by sex. It was an all-boys school, which is why I'm so smart and so... You end up actually a little bit behind that train, and as it pulls away from the station, you run faster and faster, it gets further and further away. But the truth is this. I believe that when Americans talk about that kind of discipline in public schools, when American liberals, for instance, look at the discipline in traditional British schools, they say, how horrible, oh my God, oh, it's so terrible. They live in fear of being caned. But we did live in fear of being caned by the assistant headmaster, who looked exactly like Winston Churchill and wore a black robe. And he really did. We lived in fear of it all the time. But I tell you what we didn't live in fear of in those schools. We didn't live in fear of getting knifed. We didn't live in fear of getting beat up. We didn't live in fear of drugs or guns or any of that stuff. We knew what the rules were, and if you followed the rules, then nothing's going to happen to you. And when you live in an environment like that, when you are taught in an environment like that, you are given a sense of curiosity, and especially you're given sort of a lattice where everything new that you learn actually has a place because things do connect to each other. And it's kind of well known that I was a lot more liberal when I was in college. I started out as a conservative kid. I wanted to fly jets for the Air Force, and then I hang around theater people for 10 years, and next thing you know, I'm a giant liberal, and Ronald Reagan's going to kill us all. I absolutely despise the man without having read a single word he'd ever said. Not a word. I passionately believed in things I knew nothing about. Nothing. Because everybody else did. But the discipline that you acquire is something that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And I've gone through this whole Dog and Pony show only to say that one of the great challenges of the future for us is we have this giant, ossified, fossilized, state-run everything. We have a Department of Education that levels the entire country down to the lowest denominator. Here we have the LA Unified School District, which is probably the worst school district in the country.
Yeah.
And so what do we do about it? We can't change these things. So we have to build parallel structures. We have to build scaffolding. Besides this rotten old building that's crumbling under its own weight, you have to build parallel structures. And you can't just knock that old building down. People live there. So you have to provide a parallel structure. And homeschooling is a great example of that. Now with the information age and the internet, people have access to all kinds of learning tools. They have access to all kinds of teaching aids that they didn't have before. But the beautiful thing about this is very simple. You don't have to go out and put a rope around people and drag them into homeschooling. You don't have to do that at all, because homeschooled kids do much, much, much better on tests than non-homeschool kids. And so the parents of public school kids are going to be going, why is it that my kids are going to be working for your kids? I don't want that. What are you doing right? Why is your kid getting incredible scores on the SATs? And people will migrate because it works. It'll be faster, it'll be better, and it'll be cheaper. It'll be all three. And all of these parallel structures have to be built throughout our entire society, because we cannot demolish this structure that already exists. We have to migrate out of it into smarter, faster, more horizontal, more networked, more democratic, more local, smaller systems. That's where the economy is, that's where the government is going to be. And it's the building of these parallel structures that's the great challenge that we face today.